We were supposed to be sharing this last week, and because of the weather, as you know, things were canceled, and most everyone was going to be here. Doesn't look that way today. We are actually 10 of us who are on this trip, and it was November 27th when we left, right after Thanksgiving. We got back early in the morning on December 8th. Our plane got in the 7th. We went to Chicago. We drove to Chicago. That's where we flew out of. Able to save about $600-700 per person flying out of Chicago. We've done that with Israel and other things also. And thanks to Tim, he stayed awake driving there and driving back. And we're probably up close, I don't know how many hours, because there's a 16-hour flight from Chicago to Taipei, Taiwan, and then like a 4-hour flight from there to Chiang Mai, where we were at. And so coming back is a little bit shorter, but you're up all of that time, and then you get to Chicago, and then having to drive all that time back here to Worthington, and he stayed awake. Most everybody did too, slept a little bit, but went in the ditch 4 times, but we were able to get out. Everything went great. No, we didn't. So what we're going to do today, you saw the video, it just gave you a really quick overview. I've got some pictures that we put together on a PowerPoint. We're just going to walk through some of those things and give you a brief synopsis of what happened and took place. I'm going to let everyone up here, we're just going to kind of have an
Do we
open
get a comment as you go through?
If I give you permission. No, I'm kidding. Yes, what I would like is we walk through this, things that maybe you remember. I'll just give a real brief overview, and then things that may have stuck out to you. At the end, what I'm going to ask you to do is just share maybe the impact that this trip had on you as an individual. And then to conclude that, I've asked Tim if he would share for a couple of minutes on what is called Change the Map and how that can affect you also. But first, why don't we, Dutch, do you just want to introduce yourself? I know most of you may know who some people are up here, but why don't you go ahead and tell us who you are and that you have your family with you here too.
I'm David Van Klompenberg. I actually reside north of Granite Falls, and we kind of tend here during the summer when we're vacationing on weekends. And it's my wife, Kelly, and my daughter, Emily, and her husband, Bill.
And it was great. Now, he goes by Dutch. We had 2 Daves. I was hoping Dave and Cherry were able to be here today, but they weren't able to make it. So, Dutch, I know the highlight of his trip, he shared a room with Ethan and I, my son Ethan, and that was kind of his highlight. But
Family matters.
Family matters, that's right. It was an amazing, we'll show you a picture of the hotel, a very nice room that we had with a nice patio out there. Well, we left, you want to go ahead, Jessica, pull up that first picture. As I'd mentioned, we had left Worthington here. Eventually, this is our first picture in Thailand, and it was a tiring time. If Lori was here, she would tell you that she got food poisoning at a place we stopped at on our way there. So the entire 16 hours, she was sick and not feeling well at all, even for a little of the time when we first got there. And then after about 24 hours, she was doing quite well, but she made it through. She did really well. So this is our picture getting off of the plane and getting there. We arrived, but I think it's the next picture maybe that I have in there. Not all of our luggage did, okay?
Not all.
Then there we are in Chiang Mai, and all of the luggage goes through, and our group is left standing there, and there were a couple of other people. We had a quick turnaround in Taiwan, so none of our luggage made it. It did get there within probably 24 hours back to the hotel.
You see us with the pictures. Oh, that one on?
It should be.
So if the pictures were wearing the same clothes over and over again, it's not just because we're favoriting those clothes. We didn't have anything else.
Test. Does it work now? Test.
There we go. Now
Plug
you're
it
on.
just a little bit. Just
We're good.
Get after it.
Yeah.
The missionaries that we were with, Paul and Robin Kramer, this is our picture. You'll hear about this in just a little bit. This was the elephant park where we were able to ride elephants. The Kramers are in the black shirts. They are missionaries that we've supported for the last several years. They're from the cities. They will be here sometime this year. They'll be back itinerating. And very interesting story because they never went into missions as missionaries really until their careers were kind of towards the tail end. It's never too late to step out and do what God has you to do, if it's even going to a foreign mission field. But beautiful, beautiful area that you see there up in the more of a jungle area out in the country, a little bit ways out of Chiang Mai. And Chiang Mai is in the northern area of Taiwan, or Thailand, excuse me. So those are the Kramers, and this is the hotel. They took us to the hotel, the one on the left. Very nice hotel. Was it 2 years old, I think? I think it was less than maybe 2 years old, and pretty much brand new. The only thing, it was a great place. I don't know that they'll use it again because there were always, outside of our, and I think everybody heard it, there are dogs all over the place. There's these wild dogs. And they're friendly, and they're not going to bite you or anything, but at night they're barking and howling.
They weren't friendly with each other.
No, they were not friendly with each other at all.
Illegal dog fights.
A lot of, dog. You hear
Unsanctioned illegal
these
dog
dogs
fights.
going back and forth, and every once in a while you'd hear, a cat in the middle of it, and it would just go and go like a few different times at night. It was loud. And then I don't know if someone wants to share, the picture on your right is 2 spirit houses that every business pretty much and every residence has a spirit house. Someone want to?
Yeah, every business and house has a spirit house, and the size, or the not the size, but the money value, I'll put it that way, of the business or house dictated the size of the spirit house. And for some reason, the spirit houses like red Fanta pop. So most of them had red Fanta pop on them, and every day it gets changed out for more fruits or vegetables and to feed the spirits.
And if you notice, the spirits on the left were maybe handicapped because they needed a ladder.
Yeah.
A little ladder like this wide going up to the spirit house. But elaborate, and just marked them all over.
Yeah,
everywhere.
they would protect the property that was there and keep bad spirits away. And every place, like I said, had a spirit house. Now, I think it was maybe the first day, the next picture we have of a monk that came by, a Buddhist monk. To be Thai is to be Buddhist, is a saying. 90% of those in Thailand are Buddhist. And I think you guys probably saw him first that were out there.
The feeding of the monks, which is a happening every day, and it was about 7:15. The monks will come by and receive food gifts and water gifts. And in this particular day, you see the gentleman in the pink shirt. He's got his shoes off, and was as well as the lady there. That they had a little ask for a blessing from the monks that day. The gentleman on the right there with his face covered was the groundskeeper for the hotel. He actually had his own apartment in the back. But that was the only day I saw him come out for the monk ceremony. The next several days there were actually 2 or 3 monks that would come by, but they didn't always stop. Maybe they'd received enough by the time they got there. I don't know.
Yeah, and you can become a monk for a very short period of time if you would like to. And the reason for that, at times if you have a family member who may die, then one other family member may become a monk because it's going to earn more merit for that individual and for the family. The whole thing with Buddhism is to earn merit, good works. And the reason being is that so when you're reincarnated and come back, you're continuing to move up, if you will, in the food chain to where you eventually reach nirvana, which would be like our heaven, where you've put aside all selfish passion and desire and all of those things. And so you could become a monk for a week, you could become a monk for a few years. That's up to you, and everybody pretty much takes care of you as a monk, like you said, with food and things like that. The next picture, our first full day there, the first place, if you notice on the left, this is probably one of the most famous temples that there are in Chiang Mai. And you won't be able to read it up there probably, but what it's believed is that a large elephant carried the shoulder bone of Buddha up this mountain, and when it got to this spot where you see that gold pagoda, it trumpeted 3 times and then dropped dead. And believe that Buddha's shoulder bone is buried there. And people come from all over and will do different services, will do different things, again, to try to earn merit. I don't know if any of you want to share a little bit about being there.
So this, if you see in the bottom, the icon that is in the bottom of that picture, it's the Change the Map. So the Change the Map folks have this printed card. And the printed card on the back of it, one on the front here gave us a little history of it, but on the back it had us 3 prayer points to be thinking about while we were at the temple. And Paul and Robin had shared with us when we were going, Robin's like, she said, if you don't feel well, if you feel overcome with darkness, feel free to leave. And I'm like, whatever, we're going to a temple. And we're up walking around that, and they had kind of a narrow prayer path that you could get your card with Sanskrit with your script on it to pray as you walked around the temple. And we were there, and I'm watching these people, and I just was literally just a deep sense of how lost. I mean, it almost brought me to tears, thinking about how these people were just lost, and kind of had almost a vision of hell, in that they were just these lost souls, and it's just like, what can I do to shed light on their path? That was what was going through my head. What can I do to shed light on their path so that they may not be lost?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I need to, I've seen enough. I want out.
All around this temple were monks in little coves, and they were handing out blessings to the people that were walking around there if you wanted to. But anyway, I just got a kick out of Paul. He'd walk up to any monk and every monk and just strike up a conversation, and there's no problem with him going to talk to a monk. And ironically, he had a friend there he called, was it Goon? Goon, I think. Goong. And next month, that's a pretty good friend of his, and he talks about Goon a lot and how they batter back and forth, so it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
It was his in-house Buddhism reference. If you had a question about Buddhism and why something was, you just go ask Goon.
Yeah.
Sometimes he didn't have an answer, though.
Yeah, a lot of the times. And it's a great, really, the relationship, he's had a lot of opportunities to plant seeds of the gospel with him and different ones that he's been able to meet. Not forcing anything, but just as the Holy Spirit opens up that door. But this is Wat. The word Wat means temple, and this is Wat Doi Sathep. And there are, I think it's in the next picture, there is you see the picture of us on the left. Right behind you, maybe you can't see it real well. The one on the right, I don't know what happened to the picture, it got cut off. It's not supposed to be like that. But there are 306 steps that you walk up, and this is going up to the temple area. And that's before we some of us took a walk up there. Some others, there's a train you could take to go up also. But very grand area that you're able to walk around. And when you get up there in certain areas, and you take your shoes off, and you have to walk around, and later you pick up your shoes. So, fortunately, people don't steal shoes, so that'd be taking a lot. But that was one of the first, actually I think the first full day, one of the first things that we did was went to that temple. So the next picture, we stopped at TLC Church, the Loving Church. And this is Pastor King and Apple. You see them. She's right in the middle, and he's off a couple people from her right next to Cherry.
Standing right in front of you.
Yep, yeah, in the black shirt. And they pastor this church. It's called TLC, and have a good wide variety of ages of people. They've worked with YWAM groups that have come in. And this is a church that you'll hear about one of the pastors, and this is a church plant, and I believe it's out of Liberty Church is one of the plants that this church is from. Liberty Church is planted, and you'll see the pastor in just a little bit, several different churches. But just an amazing couple. We met with them. They shared their story of where they came from and how God has ministered to them and through them with this church. I don't know if anyone has some things with
Well,
that
the
meeting.
TLC church to me will, one, it was the first chance. It was pretty cool when we got to pray over the pastors. That was of TLC church, but then was it there? It was there where Paul shared his story, because it was at TLC church when Paul, our missionary, was there on their 7th mission trip to try and figure out where they should be missionaries. And they were doing a prayer walk through the church, and Paul said, I was in this corner right over here. And so to be in a physical place where somebody's sharing their story of the Holy Spirit coming to them was pretty powerful. He's like, I was in that corner right over there praying about where we should be, and he said, I heard it as clear as somebody standing behind me. He says, I'm praying, Father, is this where we're supposed to be? Is Thailand? And he's like, done deal. And he's like my finances, done deal. He said 5 times. He had his missionary location confirmed with the Spirit voice saying, done deal. And so for the rest of the week, we'd be talking about different things, and I'm like, done deal, Paul, done deal. And but it was just a really cool, and Paul says, I am just weeping. People are looking at me like, what are you doing? He's like, and goes and tells Robin what he has just experienced, and it was really neat to be in that place. Mm-hmm. I'll be connected to that story.
Yeah, to see where they're at now and the ministry that has taken place that started, well, one of the confirming points, like you said, is right in that church. So that was pretty amazing. The next day, if you want to pull up the next picture, we left to go to a community called Prao. It's about 2 hours north, a little bit east, I believe, of Chiang Mai, out in the country. It was nice to get out of the city and just see the surrounding area. And this is the church, this is our team, but it's also several of the people that helped with the painting of that church. And we were there for 2 days. A lot of things transpired and took place here at this church. And I want to, if some of you want to share some of the things that happened and took place, why don't you go ahead and pull up the next one if you would, Jess. You'll see the inside. We painted the outside and the inside. This is one of the main rooms, our sanctuary. This is before everything was painted and things are moved into the middle and ladders and everything are set up. One of the things, if you go on a missions trip, there's possibly could be a variety of things, and one thing here was painting. And we had an amazing time with that. The next picture, I believe, shows the pastors. The one on the far left is Pastor Watt. We'll be talking about him in just a little bit. He's the pastor of Liberty Church in Chiang Mai. And then the next 2 individuals, Pastor Rat and Noi. The husband, Rat Noi, his wife is on the far right. And just an amazing couple. And I'll let some of you share a little bit about this, our experience there.
So I was working on the outside of the church there, warm. It's warm there, and so we're outside trying to work with the shade and stuff like that to keep cool. The neat thing for me, I've gone on several youth mission trips, so my connection there was definitely to the young people that were there. I couldn't speak their language, they couldn't understand me, but they wanted to help. This was their church. They were proud of their church. So they didn't know how to paint. So right away, we give them a paintbrush. They're next to me and the whole paintbrush in the can. So we're learning together how to work together. And so that was, you could see the joy in it as we started and we could see that progress, how proud they were of that church. At the end, when Tim was doing some painting, some funny stuff with a long pole and had a paintbrush taped with duct tape.
Yeah.
Our connection there was Batman, or was Spider-Man. Was it Batman? He was Batman, because he was like Batman. So they know a lot of the things. So they would, every time Tim would get their Batman, they would, so that was my connection with that church, is watching the joy. Because those young people, this is their church, and it will be their church for a long time. And they're the seeds that will continue to build, so.
Yeah.
It was just kind of neat when we got there. Everybody just kind of go, well, okay, what do we got to do? We'll paint the church, and all of a sudden everybody just started feeling a little, finding their niche, and everything just flowed so smoothly. It was just amazing with all the people we had there, how smooth it went.
Yeah. Yeah, the gentleman on the left, Pastor Watt, they started this out of a Bible study. It was in their home. You want to share a little bit about that too? Because he would drive 2 hours every Sunday, and the Bible study would meet in their home. What's that? One way, yes. One way. Every Sunday. And the lady, Pastor Noy, had gotten saved and become a part of Liberty Church and was being discipled and came out of just a horrible, horrible life of sin, and God did some amazing transformation within her. And as she began to grow, I believe both of them then moved to Prow and were a part of that Bible study. Long story short, she's the one who really became the overseeing pastor, she and her husband, of that church. And so there's a connection, like I said, a church plant out of Liberty Church. And just the joy, she cooked for us every day, all the food, amazing Thai food, and just the joy on her face.
You look at the smile on her face right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it was
That's
like
what
that
you
all the
saw
time.
for 2 days.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, she was standing at a stove kitchen area that's not wider than 4 chairs on concrete for the better part of 2 days with a bad back to make food for the 20-plus people that were there, and the smile never left her face.
And you remember how long they'd prayed for some people to come and help?
5 years. 5 years they'd been praying for somebody to come paint their church. And so when you're standing toe-to-toe with these people and it hits you that you are bringing forth the answer to their prayer, is pretty powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. And they live in a kind of a house, more of a lean-to type of facility. And we were going to go visit them, but the van we were in wouldn't make it through. It's too overgrown with brush and things like that. Couldn't get down this little road. And they have problems of some animals getting into their
Snakes.
Their lean-to, and
Snakes.
Yeah. There's, I think he had said there's 100, my numbers might not be exactly right, but there are 140 some poisonous snakes, I believe, and 120 some varieties in Thailand. So they said if you come across a snake, the odds are it's probably a poisonous snake. But we didn't see, did you guys see any snakes?
Did not.
No, we just heard of one that was by the bathroom in one of the churches we were at. But the kids took care of that. So anyway, they've been wanting to build something that is like a room that's inside, has all walls on it where animals can't get into and snakes can't get into, and just haven't been able to afford it. Even though things are quite a bit cheaper in Thailand than what they are here, they still obviously can't afford that. And so there was when she was up sharing this, she wasn't asking for any money or anything, just sharing where they're at. And I just felt prompted, like, you know what, we can do something to help cover this. And so I was talking to Paul and Rob and our missionaries.
Show me, I'll tell, okay?
Okay.
Well, it was Tuesday afternoon, evening, our I call it our circle time, but it's a group got together and she kind of shared it. And Robin come up and she said, you know, she was the bookkeeper, her past history as accountant. She goes, we got $1,000 and $1,040 left over that we saved or compiled that it's yours, and what do you want to do with it? And then we heard of Pastor Noy's request that she had needed another $1,000 to finish this room. So we all said together, we don't need $100 each, just give it to her. So we gave it all to Robin, and Robin forwarded it to Pastor Noyes so that she could complete her room.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just amazing, miraculous how God worked all those things out. And then we didn't know when they'd be able to start it. And just before they left, they said, since all the money's come in for materials and labor, they're going to start it in a couple of days. And the next picture we have is 2 pictures of what that looks like. They're still working on that. And it's going to be inside, obviously, where they're in out of the elements and the animals. And so it's just awesome to be a part of that. As Tim said, part of a prayer coming to paint, a part of a prayer coming to help provide finances to be able to finish and complete this facility and the building that they have. So that was an awesome time in Pra. I don't know if anyone has anything else as far as that time when they're for 2 days. There are rice paddies all around there also, right around the church.
Just a sidebar, during one of the meals, I think it was Pastor Watt, he goes, hot? Not hot. Not so hot? It's just kind of funny how he just, if you don't want it, here's not hot, this is hot. If you want it not so hot, mix them together.
Yeah.
Spicy. Spicy.
So after 2 days, we came back to Chiang Mai, and if you want to pull up the next one, it was Sunday. We went to 2 different churches. The first church that we see there is Pastor Prasopsup and his wife Dow. It's a smaller church. They're looking to build another facility out by a school that they have, and that was the school that we went to. You hear about in just a couple of minutes. And the picture on the left was, again, our team of people with some others that were there from the church that was taken at the conclusion of the service. We had a meal there with them also. His wife, Pastor Dow, is an amazing interpreter. She interpreted for me that Sunday. I was able to preach at both churches and did a wonderful job. She works with an organization. They do medical missions, and they are right now on the border between Myanmar and Thailand in really a war-torn area, especially on the Burma or Myanmar side. And they set up these tents, and they'll do surgeries right out there. And she said you have to be careful because they dig trenches a ways back, and when the alarm sounds, they have to leave. What they're doing is run as fast as they can into these trenches for safety. And then when things are clear, they'll go back and they'll do more of the medical work that needs to be done. But they're just doing an amazing job there in Chiang Mai. He was saved when he was in college. He grew up Buddhist, and then through the influence of another individual, a few others, but one in particular, he came to Christ and then involved in ministry and now has the church here. But that was our morning. That's actually, and I never did see it, but that's where the snake was, actually in the restroom or by the restroom of that church. And but just a wonderful time that we had together with those individuals. And then in the afternoon, we went to Liberty Church, and we have that picture. The picture on the right, I pulled that one up. You have Tim and Amy, but the gentleman with the orange, blue, and white shirt is Pastor Watt. He is the one who's the pastor of Liberty Church. It's one of the main churches there, and they've planted different churches, the Prow Church. They didn't pastor the previous church we were at, where I showed the picture. And then his wife is the one there interpreting for me. We're right there, right around, obviously, the Christmas time in December, and she did a great job interpreting. This church, it's interesting to see the different styles of worship. The first church, worship, love the Lord. It was amazing to be in the presence of God, and was a little bit more sedated, a little bit more calm. And then this church was a lot more expressive. I have a picture there too. A lot more expressive with their worship, but it's the same presence of God that was there, gathering together in both places. And it was just an awesome time to worship together with Thai people. And even some of the songs, if they didn't have it in English and it was in Thai, it doesn't matter. We knew some of the songs, but it's the same presence of God in both places. So it was an awesome time.
And well, at Liberty Church, one that's Pastor Watt had spent 3 days with us. prior to, and so getting to go to his church was cool. And then I'm sitting away from the rest of our group next to missionary Paul, and at the beginning of the service, a woman had stood up and was giving her testimony, and Paul was sharing it with me. And he was like, I'm so glad that she's here today, because he said, if you'd have seen her, I can't remember the time, but let's just say 3 months ago, you wouldn't have recognized her, because she looked like she was near death and frail, and her husband was as well, and they accepted Christ, and the demons that were taking over their body were outed, and she was fit and just radiant almost in her. And so Paul's telling me this, and I'm looking at him like, no. And he's like, yeah. He says, how old do you think she is? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe 40. He's like, she looked like she was 90. I mean, just shrunken and shriveled and gray. It was, he said, if you didn't know her then, you could not tell that they were the same individual.
Yeah. Pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. So that was Sunday. Monday, we were able to go to an elephant park. And there we have everybody actually on our team, rode in a couple of different groups of people. You guys want to share a little bit? What do you think about riding elephants? Did you enjoy it? We've got some some clothing here too, that they're elephants that are on most of the clothing and everything.
Yeah, elephants are a sacred animal, and so all this is all elephants. You got to look kind of close at my shirt, but there's elephant prints in the pattern. And the clothes that we're wearing were not of our choice. Everybody got a pair of pants and kind of a shawl to put on before you rode the elements, and they found stuff big enough for Dutch. And the pants were kind of interesting because they didn't want to get your soiled clothes, because the elephants play in the dust all day to stay cool and keep bugs off them. But they're all females, and they basically would tug on that elephant's ear to tell it to go where it wanted. Well, to tell it to go where they thought it should go, but the elephants, there's no control sitting on top of it. You're just kind of, elephant go where elephant wants to go. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was, you had to have your knees kind of way tucked up, and it was not necessarily the most comfortable ride. But it was very, very good.
No saddle or seat or anything. You're just up right on the head, right behind the ears is where your knees go. So it was a unique experience.
On the way down from the elephant farm, we went to a little village, I suppose a half mile to a mile away, and this one handler was walking his elephant home. He was sitting on his head, his feet were dangling over his forehead, and they were just tootling down the road like, here, I'm taking my elephant home.
I'm thinking it was the one Stacy was on. Is the one that was the younger kid as the handler. Anyways, doesn't matter. But
Did you like the elephant ride, Stacy?
Yeah, I did like the elephant ride. They have one trainer. That amazed me, that there's the same trainer that trains it from very young, and they have that through life. So if anything happens to the trainer, they stop using that elephant, because there's a bond between that elephant and that trainer. And you could see that when they were working with them. It was beautiful up there, though, of being up there with the elephants, and so calm, and everything's so green and blue, and so once in a lifetime opportunity. Glad that we got to do that.
Yeah, exactly. The next day, we packed a lot of bags, 150 bags, for actually more than that, to the English camp we were going to, which was connected to the school, where Pastor Persopsuth is, they oversee. Those are just some of the bags. They were gift bags, things that we brought along with us to give to the kids. There are grades 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 3 different groups, about 50 kids in each group. And so there we are packing the bags that we have. The next day, the same day, we also went to another temple, the second temple, and that was, if you want to pull that one up, we have Wat, which means temple among. It's a 700-year-old temple. It's situated in a forested area around Chiang Mai. And you see the tunnels. There are tunnels that are there. And at the time when this was first built, there was a mentally deranged monk who would wander out in the forest. And many times they had no idea where he was, and he'd show back up every once in a while. And so what the king did is he painted in these tunnels. They had the tunnels built and painted shrubs, brush, and trees in there so that the monk would hopefully stay in the tunnels and not go out into the forest. And so that's one of the reasons that they had these tunnels that were there that we walked through. And then there were different coves where they had a Buddha or different statue there that people could go and pray in. And then the tower, we were able to walk around that, but just another area where people could pray, could walk around, and very fascinating, all that is taking place. But this is a lot different than the first temple we were at. This is more out in a wooded area where we spent a little bit of time. So I don't know if anybody has anything with that you want to share in that place. Otherwise, the next day we went to the English camp with a bunch of kids, and it was a lot of fun. It was hot. It was a lot of fun that we had. These guys were on different teams. We broke everybody up into 3 different groups. They took 1st and 2nd, 3rd and 4th, 5th and 6th, and then at a certain time, everyone rotated. And supposed to have games with them to help them learn English, which is kind of difficult because you have kindergartners and you have 6th graders, those that know very little and those that are fairly well versed in some English, and they did an amazing job with these groups of kids, and had a lot of fun out there with them. And they presented us with gifts also, but we were able to give them those gifts. But if you guys want to share anything about the English camp of going out there, we have a couple of pictures here. I think that's Ethan and Dutch there. The next slide, we've got some more that are playing the games. We've got Cherry and I think Stacy, you're in that picture. You and Dave and Lori in that one playing with the kids. And we might have one more slide with pictures at the camp. Yeah, there we've got Tim. And then also another couple missionaries who were there with us. And what the kids would do, they would come and they would get gifts when they would win. I don't know what game it was. You guys
Like bingo.
Playing bingo.
After we got done with our craft.
Yeah.
After we got done with our craft that we were doing, then we played bingo. Well, word bingo. Zingo is what I've known it as. And so if they won, then Connie had brought a bunch of prizes for the kids.
Yeah. Connie and Marty are the two, another couple that are there as missionaries. So anything else with the camp you guys want to share?
I think the kids had a good day. They weren't in their classrooms, and so they liked that part of it.
So they asked us to bring gifts for the kids, and so we had these gifts, but one was a Chinese jump rope. We brought these paddles with the ball on it, which after we got them, they were like, oh, maybe that's not a good idea, because we had to teach them how to use all these things. So Chinese jumper, that's even for some of the kids now, but trying to teach them, but they wanted to learn, they wanted to figure out what these things were. So they were excited to kind of explore what was in those bags.
Yeah.
I had a kind of interesting personal thing happen at me at the school there. During the 2nd and 3rd swings, the kids had a milk break, so we as a group got together, and Pastor got out his cappuccino machine, and we made us all cappuccinos, and I was sitting there to the edge of the group drinking my iced cappuccino and talking, and all of a sudden I just felt this presence beside me, and I turned and I looked, and this Thai girl, I suppose 2nd, 3rd grade, was just standing there, and it just kind of almost surprised me. She was so quiet. But we were told to kind of minimize our physical contacts with the kids, so I just give her the thumbs up, and pretty soon she reached her hand around me and put her head on my shoulder, and I reached around, I gave her a little side hug and give her another thumbs up, and away she went, happy as a lark.
Yeah.
It was just kind of her personal way of saying thank you, so it was kind of touching to me, I guess.
Yeah. No matter where you're at, people want some physical contact, that connection with others, and it was a great time at that camp. If you guys want to just take a minute and maybe share, I know we're going just a little bit over, but we've got a meal for everyone downstairs, so we'll close in just a moment. But can you just take a minute and maybe share how the trip impacted you, what it meant to you, and anything that maybe the Lord spoke to your heart?
First, I'd like to thank Pastor Scott for making this happen, and I got to get to know 9 very special people in 10 days we were together. But on the way up to Prow, I was riding shotgun with Marty van der Zanden, the missionary associate there, and he kind of pigeonholed me. He said, well, why did you come on this trip? Okay, now I got to come up with an answer. But anyway, I was thinking in James it says, be not only hearers of the words, but doers of the word. And I said, this is kind of my way of starting to being a doer and flexing my spiritual growth and my faith, because faith without works is dead, so we got to show our faith by how we treat other people. And it was just kind of my way of starting to flex my spiritual faith, I guess.
That's good.
Mine, you get back and there's so many thoughts and feelings going through you that 10 days. But now that we've been back for a couple months, there was a couple things that stood out to me. We talked about loving the Thai people, building relationships with them, and praying for them. And how simple that sounds. And Pastor Scott's already talked about for this next year about building relationships and telling our story. And that really came down to me as the summary of that, is telling my story and how simple we can make this. How simple, one-on-one, we don't need a great big plan to bring people to Christ. It's that one-on-one personal story, loving on people and praying for them. It's as simple as that. I always just call it childlike faith. That's my summary of the trip. And how can I continue to do that here? I don't need to go far away to make that happen. But every time I take trips or do things like that, it changes me. And it's just, I look forward to tomorrow and today, how I can change somebody today or tomorrow, or where am I going to be next week. So just how simple this message can be to others.
Yeah, absolutely. Tim, if you want to maybe just personally what it meant to you, and then if you want to take just a minute or two about Change the Map.
So Missionary Paul encouraged us to have 3 messages that we take home. One is you're walking by somebody in the grocery store and they say, how is Thailand? You have a answer. The second story was you're in an elevator with somebody and you got 30, 40 seconds. What's your answer? And then the, hey, would you want to come over for coffee? I'd love to hear about Thailand answer, right? Well, my first 2 are summed up in that the Holy Spirit is as alive and active today in this place and in Thailand as when the Gospels were being written. The pastor or missionary Paul's call to service and Marty's story. Do you believe that God can take a twice divorced alcoholic accountant and make him a disciple? The answer is yes, because we witnessed it. That was missionary Marty's story. Pastor Noy, goodness, it's a wonder she survived how hard her life was before accepting Christ, and now she's being used in her role, right? And so that's my take-home message is, prayers are answered, the Spirit is among us, and if we read through the book of Acts and look at the different things that they highlighted, the healings, the call to service, we saw that. We witnessed the book of Acts when we were in Thailand firsthand. And so, back to the power of prayer, we can't get into the divine appointment story that was just amazing, but you shared a little bit about it a couple weeks ago with your video. But so Mark Doreen, who is the AGM regional director, I think is kind of close to what his title is, they've developed an app called Change the Map. And Change the Map is simply a first world tool to help us do 3 things. Pray for the Buddhist people, that they'll come to Christ, And 2, connect people that are praying for the Buddhist world. And 3, keep us connected to the missionaries that are in there, okay? It's a simple app on your phone, and when you sign up for it, they put out a prayer point, a weekly prayer point to pray about for the Buddhist world, okay? Put together by their team. And the gal that reads it is it's usually about 3 minutes. And it's just a point to focus on in your prayers. You know, what can I do? You know, Stacy and I had this conversation. What can I do? You can pray. And keep these people in your heart. Because the work that they're doing is building relationships and bringing Christ to people that have never heard about him before. And Change the Map is a way to, again, that it's all about that they believe, I believe in the power of prayer, and Change the Map, they have a goal of getting, I think it's 5,000, no, I think it's 50,000.
Yeah.
50,000 people that are subscribers to Change the Map that are continually praying for the Buddhist world. And it isn't just about Thailand, it's the 5-country region, which is Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, Myanmar, and there's one other one. But, so that if you have any technological questions, I'm happy to invite you, because it's super easy to do. Let me know. I'll send you the link to Change the Map, and you can get signed up and get that weekly prayer point. There's a point in there where you can click on Paul and Robin and Marty and Connie or other missionaries serving in that area and follow them. They don't use social media because you can't really control it, and sometimes it's blocked. And so this is their point that they connect with a lot of their people that support them. So
Yes.
One last comment, if you ever think about, this is my second mission trip, but please consider it, because you always will come home saying, I received more than I felt I gave on this trip. So it's kind of a builder for your faith.
Yeah, and that's one of the things the Lord laid on my heart a few years ago, is that we as a church, every 12 to 18 months, will have a missions trip, an opportunity for you, a part of our church, to go and be a part of one of the missionaries we support. And this is the reason for that. It's to hear stories like this, to have that fire lit on the inside or flame even more and help spread that to other people. And so we do have one in the works. I can't give out any information right now because nothing's been confirmed. But we will have another missions trip coming up in 2025. And if you have any questions about a missions trip, talk with some of these individuals or others who have gone. I would love to see every person at least one time go on a missions trip, because it truly is, as Dutch said, it's life transforming. You are ministered to more than what you minister.